Episode number 40. I got my buddy Pietro Barberi here with me today. This guy in the world that I live in, no human has better calves than Pietro. I've also had the luxury of playing golf with Pietro, and by accident sending him almost into the pond at number 12 or 13 at number 6 at North Jersey. So
I tend to try to forget.
Yeah, you try to forget that. I can't forget it. It's kind of like PTSD for me. I totally thought you were holding on, and I almost killed you. So I'll be forever in your debt. But I always apologize, my friend. It's great to have you today, Pietro. We're going to talk a little bit about personal stuff, a little bit about the business stuff. I hold a great deal of respect for this gentleman here on the other side. Similar to me, we have 3 kids. Pietro and his wife have 4. A lot going on. We were actually just talking about it prior to jumping on and recording. But Pietro is also part owner in a construction firm, GTL Construction, that is wildly successful, doing projects all over the tri-state. So Pietro, thank you for coming on today. Episode number 40. I can't believe we're here. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, how you kind of came to be this guy. I met him now probably 4 years ago, going on 4 years. And this is one of those guys in my life that I'm very thankful to have. One of those folks that, like, your kids are coming up together. You're at the sort of same time, the same place in your lives, the same season of your life. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about Pietro. How did it all start?
Well, first, thank you, Darren. I appreciate being on, and likewise, man. You have been a great friend, and awesome to have somebody like you in town, man. So listen, man, similar to you, man. Running a business, 4 kids at home, at the tender age where heavy into the sports. Thankfully. So it's a big juggling act, man, to be husband, father, business owner. So we do the best we can every day, to try to make sure that, again, dedicating the time that you need to grow a successful business, and making sure that, what's required of that is being done. But at the same time, not losing sight of the formidable ages of the kids, right? This is kind of the time. It doesn't last long, and I'm starting to see that. Everybody always says that, and it's a short window, and you're like, like everything else, like, we'll get there. But it's true. I mean, my girls are in middle school. Lorenzo's going to be in middle school, my son, and it goes quick. It does go quick. So to make sure that we're there present, doing those things, and which gives me the most joy, and juggling and making sure that we're there for all those things. No different than you there. I mean, very similar.
When you're talking about, though, one of the things that always as a parent in the town we're living in right now, you see all kinds of parenting styles.
Yeah.
Some good, some not so good, everything in between. One of the things I admire most about you is that, I know what it's like having 3 at very different ages, a freshman, a 7th grader, and a 3rd grader. And you're kind of getting into that similar boat, but like everything that's happening, it doesn't matter. And you got an extra kid. Like, everything that's happening, the thing that I most admire about you is it feels like you're always present. And again, you and me, just because of what we're doing, like coaching, Lorenzo and Luca, we're very present for the boys in like an every day type of situation. I'm wondering with you, and I have people that listen to this from all different walks of life, times in their lives, whatever. How do you guys like kind of work that out? So for me, I know, for instance, a big thing for me is giving ample time to like Olivia and Tessa. And that's hard for me because I'm literally coaching for 2 seasons. So, and football, as we all know, football is like a 6-day-a-week thing. How do you guys like? I agree with you on the whole point about the time is fleeting. And I was just saying it because we were talking about over the weekend about like, Luca talking about high school football, what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. And I'm like, dude, just focus on now. Like, just don't get so ahead of yourself that you forget, like, you don't live in the now. Like, I try to tell that to them because everybody, even Tessa, on a funny level, she's 9 years old and she's like, I just want to be an adult. And I'm like, it's like Adam Sandler and Billy Madison when he said, stay in the 3rd grade as long as you can.
Yeah, that's right.
What for you with your kids, especially kind of having them in a similar age range? How do you and Lane like impart that on the kids? Like, how do you guys work together is it kind of like our house where like Samantha's kind of with the girls a lot more, or is it like, do you guys try to like switch it up a little bit? And I ask this because it's hard for us. You got an extra kid, man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for us, football season is very demanding, right? So obviously, the kids know, Lane knows that, football season it's Lorenzo, right? He plays football. Like you said, it's a very demanding sport, a lot of time. So that's kind of, where we all know and we agree that the majority of my time is going to be spent there. That's why coming off of football, I do my best, even with the older girls, my twins, to help with basketball, to be at the softball games, because I tend to they come first kind of in those seasons where if I had to, thankfully a lot of the times, things are scattered where we're able to both, Lane and I, be present at both games. Sometimes there's a situation where something is at the same time and we'll divide and conquer. It makes it easier with the girls, not by design, by choice of themselves. They tend to kind of play the same sports and be on the same team, so it makes it a little bit easier. But now my little one, Antonella, at 6 years old, she's coming up. And the way that I try to do it, instead of kind of getting worked up, is like, hey, the older kids are going to be done in a couple years, before they move on to high school. And I'm going to have like 4 or 5 years of helping her and whatever she does. I mean, so far she likes soccer, basketball, but she's big into dance, which thank God for Lane. She's handling those long day extravaganzas, which
you don't put on a tutu and dance.
That's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level of sport. I mean, that's a whole nother level. So, I mean, that's what we do. You just try to break it into small pieces, like anything else, right? Like anything else, business-wise or anything else we do in life. You try to break it into manageable pieces and do the best you can, right? Ultimately, there's only one of us, right? There's only one of each of us between me and Lane, so we try to make it as fair as possible. And the kids understand, right? The kids understand that, in a perfect world, we would be there for every minute of every game, of every practice, right? But it's impossible. And they do a pretty good job of getting it, knowing that, whenever we get an opportunity, we're always there. So
segueing into that, because I think that's a great place. So again, one of the big things I admire about you is how you you always look like you have everything together. And I know it's probably not like that every minute of every day, but your business, especially like during COVID, like let's segue into GTL a little bit because
Yeah.
I've had conversations with you about like what the pandemic did with regards to like the laying business and having everything boomerang around, and how taking that concept of taking everything in manageable chunks with regards to GTL, like tell the audience a little bit about how the business started. I know the story, but tell everybody your background and how you got into it and how you've taken GTL from maybe what it was 10 years ago to what it is today, and how you've managed to do that in a way while still being present in all facets of your life. Because I think that for me is a big part of what I love and respect about you, is the fact that you can do this. There's moments in time, you're going to laugh at this. There's moments in time where I'm sitting there and I'm like, I got 3 kids and it's like, I got that bracelet on. Like, what would Pietro do? Like I literally sometimes, well, I do that because you look at, you tend to have that, like that complex, like, what am I doing wrong here? Especially on times when it feels very stressful or especially in business. I mean, the ups and downs of business over the last 3-4 years, it hasn't been easy to navigate. Like, let's call it what it is. So how have you taken those life lessons of what you learned and put them into GTL, and how you've grown them, and tell the audience a little bit about GTL?
Yeah, sure. I mean, GTL is a full service GCCM firm serving the tri-state area. I mean, we do anything from ground up construction, retail, labs, healthcare, self-storage, industrial. I mean, you name it. In the past 3 years, we've kind of ventured off into every sector. But to go back to what you were saying, Darren, is how do you manage it? First and foremost, it's having great partners. I mean, that's number one. I think it's very hard, unless you're a sole owner of a business, to be successful and bring a business forward without great partners. So I was fortunate, first and foremost, to be blessed with great partners. Secondly, I always knew that in order for me, family is very important to me. And in order for me to be present and do the things that I wanted to do for my kids, is, I had to be an owner of a business, right? It's very hard to do it any other way. And I'm sure there's people that do it and they figured it out. But for me, it was kind of a goal to do that, so I can guarantee myself to be able to manage my time and be present for my family. So that was kind of the leading factor into starting GTL. And like you said, and when you start off like any other business, you're starting small. I remember, it was me and one other employee and my partners, and we're doing small 2,000 square foot offices. And for the first 3 or 4 years, that's all we did. Office interiors. It was office after office after office. Now, I love to, say that we were genius, right? And wanted to venture out, knowing that COVID was going to hit, but obviously that's not the case. But we did have the foresight to understand that, hey, all our eggs were in one basket. And like anything else in life, you want to try to be as diversified as possible. So a couple years before COVID, we started breaking out. Our existing clients started bringing us in to different sectors, like the ground up, like retail, healthcare, labs. So when COVID did hit, fortunately enough for us, we were in kind of the work that was deemed essential, right? It wasn't just office. If we were only doing office at that period of time, we may be having a different conversation right now. We just don't know what could have been, right? Fortunately, we were diversified. The plan that we had in place 2 years ago had come to fruition, prior to COVID, thankfully. And we were able to stay busy through COVID to the point of we were able to strategically hire people in positions that we probably wouldn't have been able to hire because other companies were letting go. So that was a big momentum switch for us. Coming out of COVID, we actually came out stronger than when we went in. just by strategically being able to, we had all our ducks in a row. We were diversified, like we said, and we were able to grow the company that way and bring in some really good people who maybe we would never had the opportunity to get if kind of that wasn't going on. So again, we pushed forward. We took kind of the new people on board, and we continued to expand to where we are today. And today we have 22 employees total in the New Jersey office. Like you said, it's a true tri-state presence with an office in Cedar Knolls and an office in White Plains. So we're able to service the entire area. And we're continuing to evolve, looking to get into different projects, bigger projects, building relationships. I mean, that's kind of our mantra. We build lasting relationships. We don't just build offices and build buildings. We build relationships with people and continue to do their work. And one of the things we're most proud of is the repeat business. I mean, we're probably right now, I'd say 70% of the work that we do is repeat business for existing clients, which is, we're very, very proud of that, because it tells us we're doing something right, and we just continue to build on that.
One of the things you just hit on during that time period of like COVID about hiring and sort of that, what I like, the same thing as DSM. DSM has been very serendipitous over time, over the last 17 years, where I think it has a lot to do with credit to the partnership that you guys have. I think there's a lot of, over time, if you're doing good work, I think it says one thing, but if you're doing good work and like the group of people that kind of are leading suck, I don't think you get those opportunities. And so over time, just by building a company in the right way, similar, and I'm talking from like DSM's respect, because we've had financial ups, financial downs, like everything in between. But I think that what doesn't leave you, or why the serendipity happens, is because of the leadership and the way that they run the company. And I think that always stands the test of time. With regards to, like you talked about, your partners, like there's people out in the business that probably heard about GTL well before you hired them and knew the work you did. That's great. But honestly, if you kind of came to them with an offer and knew you were a bunch of dicks, they probably wouldn't have signed on. So that's what people want to be a part of. They want to be a part of that. So the work speaks for itself. And I can tell you guys, like, firsthand, to the listeners out there, like, getting, like, probably a year ago, we got a little sneak behind the curtain at like what Pietro's saying right now is 100% true. And like, that's where the serendipity happens. Like, you and I tend to think of it as like, oh, we just happen to stumble on these opportunities and we're not geniuses. Well, you know what, Pietro? Back in the day, if we happened to be a dick, people probably wouldn't have signed up.
Yeah, 100%. Especially in today's environment. We live, like, I mean, forget about the information age. We're like information age, like on steroids,
8.0,
right?
8.0.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know what 0.0 we are, but it's like we're deep, and it's impossible. I mean, reaction time, how you handle things, how you react to things, it's live. I mean, people know, like you said, Darren. I mean, people know about the company before they interview. We know about candidates, right? Interviewing before they know. With such an influx of information and people having information at their fingertips, makes it that much more important, right? For us as a company to kind of do the right thing and have the right people. I mean, I mentioned my partners, blessed to have good partners, but the people that we have, I'm just as thankful, to have the people that we have, because without them, similarly, we're not even close to doing what, the things that we're doing today, building those relationships, getting into those markets. It's a testament to each and every one of our employees. And we focus, one of the things we focus on because of that, used to be kind of what people did as a company, right? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? But in this age, and we kind of preach it here all the time, think about it, we're a construction company. How do you differentiate yourself as a construction company? Everybody comes in, they demo a space, they build it. There's not many things except, and we preach on it here, is how, right? It's not what we do, right? We build spaces and everybody could come and build the space, but it's how we do it, right? It's how we communicate. It's how we manage. It's how we, have the relationships with people, how we build trust, right? And that's kind of what we try and focus on to differentiate ourselves. And like you said, so when people kind of look at the company or want to come work here or want to do business with us, they're not looking at what we do, they're looking at how we do it, right? With the level of our
even a level beyond that, I think it's the core why.
Yeah.
Like, why are these things, like the how and the why, I think stand side by side, because the what, similar to us. There's a billion marketing companies and, but I mean, you've had the chance to meet, two of the folks that are very important to our organization. Like, you leave there and you're like, wow, not even me. Like, obviously I care because you're my buddy, but like, you left there and you're like, wow, they actually like really care about, and this happens day in and day out. And you sit there and you're like, what keeps me up at night? But the thing that keeps me up at night is, and I had to learn this lesson very early on, because when you start a business, you probably went through the same thing. You have a bunch of people that, or, at the time we had, like, when this started to keep me up at night, 3, 4, 5 people, maybe, and I'd be like, how do I keep them motivated? And how do I keep them caring about these things that I care about? Because the people, especially when we first started, like, I grew up around here and basically I was just hustling people that like, that since I was 5 years old, since my parents moved. But that made it very personal to me. It didn't matter if it was like the signage out front at the White Claw Florist, or working for Devon Jewelers, or building a website for chocolate, etc. Like, those small things meant, it was like life or death to me. And so I think as a entrepreneur, and certainly as a leader, maturing so you can actually make other people care about that why as much as you do, like how important the how is, like that in and of itself, I think is the number one lesson that I've learned over the last 17 plus years, is getting people, and people can see through the bullshit, man. Like, they can see through the bullshit. If you're out there and you don't actually care, it's not even a client, it's your people.
Oh yeah.
And so that to me is like the biggest lesson. And I think it's super important as you're going through your evolution, if you will, as a leader and as an entrepreneur. I don't know if you had that similar type of experience, but it was the hardest thing for me. It used to drive me nuts.
Yep.
And now I just go about it where it's like, all right, it went from being really difficult to understand to being really easy to understand, because if I'm doing all the things that I should at the head of the company, acting with integrity, acting with accountability, acting on the values of who we are as people, then like everything should just happen naturally. I don't know.
Yep. No, and listen, how many times there that, I say it, right? You can't just speak it. You have to act it, especially in our position. You can't take a day off, right? That's kind of what, to me, the secret to success is that it's the consistency. And listen, and if you listen, we're talking about values, right? The values that we portray, the values that we want to push forward with our company, they're important to us, right? So we live by them, right? But I can tell you so many examples of people that just, Google, AI, Chat GBT, give me 5 values. They write down 5 values, and now they try to instill them in the company. Well, I mean, talk about how something can fall apart so fast, right? Because if you're not believing in them, but more so if you're not every single day acting them, right? People, it's like your kids, right? How many times you could tell your kids 100 things until you're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, they watch you, right? They see what you do. Same thing with employees, man. They watch you every day. So if you're speaking one thing and acting another, talk about, mass confusion. And that's kind of where you don't want to be, right? You want to kind of have the synergy and to bring everything together. Again, I relate it to my kids is, you want to teach them, you want to say things, but if you're not backing up what you say with what you do and you're actually doing it, I mean, very, very hard to get the message across and have people buy into it and follow, right? So you couldn't be more right. I mean, it's super, super important.
One of the things that really intrigued me, and I want to get your take on this, because it's one of the, forget about family, forget about work, it's one of the core values that I really wanted to accentuate here, because I think that everybody that I've had on here, I kind of have like, what's the word? Like, what's my reasoning behind the homage? For you, it's most definitely the personality. Like, if you haven't met Pietro and like we're gonna hang out with him, I have you guys over to my house. Like, Pietro's been in Piper's Pit down over here during football season. Like, no matter what is going on, and again, I know you got your good days and your bad days, Pietro always comes with a positive thought and a positive personality, and it's just something that I can't always do this real well. Like, being Italians, I don't know you, and so I kind of always think about this. Like, my WW, what would Pietro do? PD, bracelet. But like, having that positive attitude, and we'll end it on this because it kind of ties everything up. With the way you bring it, whether it's to a bunch of 5th and 6th grade kids, hanging out with us boys, bringing it to your, employees in your company, how you are with Lane, being, your spouse and the whole thing, your outlook on things is one of the things that amazes me most about you, because I very rarely, if ever, that I can think of in the last 4 or 5 years, have ever seen you in a legit, like, pissed off, bad mood, outside of 1 or 2 calls on the football field. But that aside, it's not your fault. I get it. It's the ref's fault. It's
100%.
Yeah. But how and where does that come from? And the reason I say this is because it's that family part of it. I feel like you kind of grew up in the same way that I did, with, being in an Italian family. You got a lot of personalities, man. There's a lot of personalities. There's a lot of things to navigate. Where did that positivity come from?
I mean, like you said, Darren, I remember from a very early age, it was something that my family were immigrants that came over from Italy, right? My mom and my dad. My mom was still very young, but my dad and my uncles, and we were close knit. I lived in an apartment building with my uncles, with my grandparents. They were in construction. So, I learned those lessons at an early age, because listen, what they had to go through, right, to come here, not know the language, build a business, make money, become successful. I mean, and watch them do it, right? With the positive attitude, with their heads up. And every year that I kind of saw that was, what could have been harder than that? Where kind of we have the advantage, through their hard work. I had the advantage to go to school, to work, right? So, and it was just talking to them, right? There's no use. You're gonna exert energy one way or another, right? So for me, and this was a great lesson that I learned early on, and I take it to this day, right? If you're gonna exert energy, do it in a positive way. Put all of your energy into positive thoughts, positive action, because one way or another, it's going to be sucked out of you, right? So, for me to devote even a second to negative energy or negative thoughts or negative things is a waste of time, right? It's just, I refuse to allow myself to even consider it or do it. So, I through the years, it's just kind of, like anything else, right? As years go by, you become stronger, stronger. And, I got to the point where it's not even an option for me, right? It's, if I'm going to exert energy, if I'm going to do something, it's going to be with all as much positive attitude as I possibly can. And I try to instill that in my kids, and hopefully they get it, because that's half the battle in life, right? Yep. Half the battle. As hard as life is, and it knocks us down, and listen, I have my tough days like everybody else, but half the battle is listen, it's the same thing like in the business. When we have a really good month, or if we don't have such a good month, you try to stay as even keel as possible. Don't get too high, don't get too low, right? And always move forward with positive thinking, and you'll always be on top. I'm a firm believer of that. No matter what happens, if you approach everything in a positive light, you'll always be on top.
This is something right now, actually, with Luca, that I'm trying to, well, Olivia too, not so much test, but life is hard, guys. Like life is hard. There are things that, especially, and I didn't have, I was the product of a second marriage, so I didn't have siblings growing up, and it was just me, and I went through my life, and my parents were like awesome parents, but going through, Olivia's a freshman, girl in high school, going through freshman year of high school, for a girl especially, like you put Luke in a situation, like probably punching somebody in the throat and like, let's move on with our day, like dealing with it with girls is just a new adventure for me, and it's not easy to navigate. Like the little things that meant nothing to me, growing up, like, oh, I had a friend who had a party and I didn't get invited. I'm like, all right, I'll make my own plans. Like now it's like the world caving in, like, oh my gosh. I'm like, go do something else. And the other thing you want to do, like, meaning the fact of like what they're going through at this point, you're like, dude, the people in your life right now, like I have 2 friends from growing up that I stay close with. Like they're not even gonna matter when you're like 35, and
it's a product of, I feel it's a product of, listen, in every generation we try to do it, right? You try to give your kids the most, right? Same thing, like our parents did the best, but we saw the struggle. That's the difference. We saw a little bit of the struggle. We saw that, there was other things to worry about. Nowadays it's hard, right? Because, thanks to your hard work and a lot of other people's hard work and my hard work, our kids really don't need for much, right? They don't have other things to worry about, right? So it's, those are big things, right? And I'm with you, man. It's I mean, I could grow a business, I could do a lot of things, but there is nothing more difficult than what you just described, right? Is trying to navigate those waters on, for our kids, on, how to keep them, how to give them, everything that you possibly can, but at the same time, keeping them grounded and building that foundation of, hey, life is hard, right? I know that what you see most of the time is easy and it's all, it's all sunshine and rainbows, but it's not the cliche, but it's true, man. It's hard. There's going to be hard times. Right now they're going to start to see that as you start to get to high school, and the hard for them in high school are those type of things, right? The friends and who's inviting who and who's doing it. But you try to say it in a polite way, but it's like, hey, you're going to laugh at thinking that was hard, because there is going to be challenges and harder stuff that lie ahead, and you just try to do the best you can to build that foundation for them to fall back on, right? But it's probably the hardest thing, right, is navigating those waters on what to say and what to do and how to do it. I'm with you on that, man.
There's a lot to that it's an hour or 2 hour segment. It's one of those, to your point, like, you want to see the kids happy, and you want to see them, have, like I said, I grew up in Wyckoff, but like, it was a different time in the 80s. Like, Wyckoff, as we see Wyckoff now, wasn't Wyckoff. There were still a lot of blue collar people that owned their business. You didn't have to be like a Wall Street guy to live in Wyckoff in 1980. And it's one of those things where the word grounded, like you said, I think it's spot on. Like, getting out there. I'm like, Luca, we just had the conversation. You're not playing a sport, you're gonna work. And he's like, work? Like, what do you? 7th grade, I was like, yo, I don't want to play basketball. My dad was like, all right, go to the job board in an hour and go get a job. And I ended up cutting somebody's grass for like the summer. And, like, that's what it was. Or, go a miraculous, like, this happened this winter. I said, Luca, go grab your shovel, go walk up and down Stonewall and go see if anybody needs their, sidewalks done. Came back with $200. He was like, what just happened? I'm like, that's called work.
Yeah.
That's how you actually earn money. When you get out of college someday, you're going to go to work, and then you're going to earn money. And then mom and I are going to go travel and do something without you. And you can go buy an apartment on your own with your money. Man, this has been great. Pietro, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing these stories. This homage means a lot to me, because, again, I've gotten to know you really well over the last bunch of years, and just what you bring to the table as not only a dad and a husband, as an entrepreneur, just the way you are in general. It makes me happy. It makes me very happy to know that, like, I have a friend like yourself, and just to be able to, we still have years to go. We're still going to be coaching and still got years to go. But as you mentioned at the beginning, these years are fading, and we're coming up towards the end. At least for me with football, you guys are gonna carry on the torch after we're done. But thank you for all you do. Thank you for what you mean to this community. I'll turn it over to you, man. Last words are yours.
Dad, man, I appreciate you. And listen, the feeling's mutual, man. I can't, our friendship and kind of, to know you and the friendship that we've created, the past years of really special to me, man. So I appreciate you even thinking of me to put me on, but I couldn't be more proud to call you a friend, man. And I look forward to many more fun years ahead, brother.
And I promise you, when we golf, I will always make sure to look back and ask. I promise. Lane, you have my word, Lane. I promise to not purposely kill your husband anymore. It may happen by accident. It will not happen on purpose. I promise you. My friend, thank you. Have a good rest of the day. Appreciate you out what you're doing.
Too.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too, brother. Thank you, Dad. Have a good day, man.
All right. Bye, pal.